Good evening, everyone. Today we will initiate the chapter excretory product and their elimination. Okay. So, excretion, although we feel dirty, in everyone's house we feel talking about excretion or about excretion discussion is dirty, but it's not true. It is the most noble thing because it is getting our body rid of the toxins. Okay. So, what is excretion? Excretion is elimination of metabolic waste. So, who decide what is metabolic waste and how it is decided? Okay, these are the things which we need to remove. Basic part of excretion is nitrogenous waste. Okay, so how nitrogenous wastes are formed and why we need to remove them? Nitrogenous wastes are formed by degradation of nitrogenous biomolecules after their use. So what are the biomolecules contain nitrogen? They are present in you. They are biomolecule. Ammonia is a biomolecule. Very good. Very good. Nucleoside, nucleotide. Another biomolecule which has nitrogen in it. Very good. Amino acid. So these are all nitrogenous material. When they degrade, they are responsible to produce materials like ammonia, urea, uric acid, etc. So what will happen? They needs to be removed from our body. Why? What will happen? These nitrogenous wastes are very harmful for our body. Even if they are stored in more amount, they are toxic to our body and cause problems. Okay, so that is why we need to be very careful and we need to remove them because they are creating some kind of side effect in our body. Okay, so how they are removed? You know that types of excretion are ammonotelic, ureotelic, and uricotelic. Apart from that, I taught you one extra, that is aminotelic. Some organisms excrete amino acid directly. Others ammonotelic, which are generally aquatic organisms, remove waste in the form of ammonia. Ureotelic means urine, urea, and uric acid means uric acid is removed in case of uricotelic. So why these different modes are required? Why some organisms do it by excretion of ammonia? Why some urea? Why some uric acid? So which form do you think is best? The most complex form is urea. But lower organisms cannot afford to use it. And aquatic organisms have ability to make this ammonia secreted by them get diffused into water easily. That's why although ammonia is highly toxic, it is generally observed as a nitrogenous waste in case of aquatic organisms. Understood? So this is very important. You should know why many different types of method of excretion is required. Now, in ammonotelic organisms, ammonia is very easily soluble in water, and that's why it can be easily diffused by the body surfaces. Lower organisms do not have ability to prepare a very well developed excretory system. They cannot prepare. Understood? So, what will happen in their case? They have a diffusion method. So, unless and until nitrogenous waste is easily soluble in water, it is very, very difficult for them to get rid of. Next is ureotelism. So, they are producing urea, and let me tell you, the production process of urea is very complicated. In our liver, there is a cycle called ornithine cycle in which urea is produced. Okay, so obviously you need to have a separate cycle, separate site where you are going to convert all nitrogenous waste to urea, which is only possible to accommodate by higher organisms. That's why lower organisms never go for ureotelism. Next is uric acid excretion. It is uh, observed in insects and some crustacean. Even terrestrial reptiles also excrete by uric acid. If you see the excretion of this wall lizard or bird, even birds excrete by uric acid, you must have noticed one thing, that the excretory substance of bird is having some white color substance, that is uric acid, and some dark colored substance, that is their stool. So they pass their urine, rather to say, we should not use the word urine because it doesn't have urea. So their nitrogenous waste as well as their fecal matter together. And uric acid is having a very strange property. The moment it is coming in contact with air, it gets solidified, which doesn't allow the material to diffuse and pollute the environment further. So that's why these organisms generally go for this. Apart from that, another reason why ureotelic and uricotelic mode of excretion is observed in case of land animal is for excretion of ammonia, you require lot of water. Why? Water should be coming and in contact with your body surface so that water can be removed. Understood? So, water can be removed, which will have the ammonia present in it. In terrestrial organism, the worst challenge they face is managing their water balance, isn't it? They need to maintain the balance of their water. So how they do it? They cannot allow to have a mode of excretion where they need to constantly remove water from their body. For example, when I'm talking to you, teaching to you, I'm not in direct contact with water. No, whenever I'm feeling thirsty, I'm taking a sip of water, isn't it? So obviously, we need to conserve the amount of water. So for that purpose, the urea and uric acid is best because to excrete them, you don't need high amount of water. That's why they can be excreted with low amount of water. Okay. So we will take a look into the different types of excretory organs. Although while teaching animal kingdom classification, I taught you about each of them. Flame cells or protonephridia. It is observed in case of platyhelminths. So how are they? I draw the diagram and show to you. In their body, they have pores where flame-like structures or extensions are there. These extensions are present inside the body, and they will collect the worst or the excretory substance which is removed by the pores. So if I have a look into the flame cell, they have structure like this. They have flame-like structure in the body, inside body, which will collect the excretory substance. Apart from that, if you have a look into the nephridia, if you look into the wall of body, they have one pore called nephridiopore, one tube-like structure, and one funnel-like structure which is lined with the cilia. This funnel-like structure is having a numerous number of cilia or extensions at the border of their mouth of the structure. So nephridia looks like this. Similarly, it will also collect the excretory substance present in the body and it will extend it outside. Malpighian tubule is present in case of insects. Green glands or antennal glands are present in Crustacea. So basically Arthropoda, which is the largest phylum of animal kingdom, have high diversity in terms of respiratory system as well as excretory system. The way in last chapters we observed that in respiration they have book gill, book lung, isn't it? Similarly, in excretion they can have in insect they have Malpighian tubule, whereas in Crustacea like prawn, which are having a thick covering on their body surface, they are having green gland. And here it is not mentioned, but I wish to mention the arachnids. Arachnids are types of arthropodas which are having four pair of appendages. Can you understand with about whom I am talking? Arthropodas with four pair of appendages. That means 8 appendages. What are the arthropoda? Spiders. Very good. So spiders are known as arachnids. There is a very good English movie. You can see Arachnophobia. It's about giant spiders. Okay. So arachnids are having coxal gland as their excretory substance. Higher animals are having kidney as their excretory substance. So you can see that kidney is the best, but depending on the complexity of the animal, we can have different types of excretory structure. Now we will talk about human excretion. Okay, so we have pair of kidneys. Okay, so this is the diagram of human excretory system. So these are pair of kidneys and the pipe-like structures coming out of kidney is actually collecting the urine produced inside the kidney called ureter. They are opening up into a balloon-like structure which is known as urinary bladder. And there is a pipe-like structure which is throwing urine outside, that is called urethra. Okay. So urethra open up into a pore which is called urinal pore. But this urinal pore is, in case of human, it is urinogenital pore. That means our urine is thrown out of body, but apart from this, gametes are passed also through the same pore. That's why it is known as urinogenital pore. So each human being is having two pores. One is urinogenital pore for the passage of both urine and germ cells, and second is the anus, which is connected to the digestive system, which will throw up the feces. Okay, so because once upon a time someone told me that 3 pores are there, so don't get confused. Okay, so this is the diagrammatic representation of human excretory system. So externally, these are the parts that kidney, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra, and urinal pore. These are the basic structure. But in biology, we need to look into deep into all these structures and see how they look from inside. That we are going to see now. So we have a pair of kidneys. Okay. Many a times it is observed that if kidney of a person is damaged, we have one spare kidney. Out of 2, if we donate one to one person who is having extremely serious medical condition, we can see that one kidney is enough for us to survive. But It is said that person with one kidney cannot go for rigorous physical activity. So if you are donating your one kidney to you, you cannot participate in highly energetic sports activities, or you cannot be part of army, maybe any such kind of job where you need to do lots of physical workout. You cannot do that. Okay, so it is reddish brown in color and shape, as you can see, it's bean shape. Okay, that's why the beans are known as kidney bean. You know, they have exact shape like kidney. That's why we call them kidney bean. So obviously, as it is a very important structure, and we studied that heart is covered by a membrane called very good. Lungs by very good. Similarly, we cannot allow our kidney to roam here and there. So it is protected by a membrane called peritoneum. Below diaphragm, it is present to the ventral side of body. That's why if you want to go for any surgery in kidney, you should cut your body or open up your body from the back side, not from the front side. Okay, and it is covered by peritoneum. So exactly if I say that it is situated between the last thoracic and third lumbar vertebra. Now do we know who is going to tell me the names of vertebra? Aishi confirm. Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, coccygeal. Can you tell me the number? 7, 12, 5. Shabash. So we are through with the vertebral column. I think all of you are now, if you practice, you must be naming 206 bones of your bone. That is nice. Anyways, length is approximately 10 to 12 centimeter and thickness is 2 to 3 centimeter. Average weight is 120 to 170 grams. Okay, so let us see further. So if you see into this kidney structure, this is the facial structure. That means outer side. From the inner side or on the concave side of the kidney, there is an opening. This opening is called hilum. Can you see it is marked in red? So hilum is a part through which the blood vessels, that is artery and vein. So as these arteries and veins are going where? To kidney. So they are named as renal artery and renal vein. Okay, renal artery and renal vein. Okay. Apart from that, the activity of kidneys need to be managed. Okay. Hilum is having blood vessels. Apart from that, we need to control the activity of kidney. No? So that is done by nerves which are going inside. The protection of kidney. Kidney should be protected from all kind of infection. So lymphatic ducts are also going inside. Now incoming is for artery vein, nervous system and lymphatic ducts. Outgoing is for only one thing. Urine. So it is passed by ureter. So ureter is carrying the urine outside. Now, this is the diagram which is describing the concave structure of the kidney. Okay. So you can see if you take a cross section here, you can see an opening. Hilum is leading to a funnel-like structure which is called renal pelvis. See, I just want to show you. Can you see this area? Let me mark it. Can you see this area? This area is actually called renal pelvis. Okay. So renal pelvis is the funnel shaped cavity where the hilum is open. Okay. Now, if you look into renal pelvis, it is having projections. Can you see these green color projections are branching from here? I am marking them so that you can see. So these green colored projections are called renal calyx or calyces. Okay. So hilum is opening into what? Pelvis. And then pelvis area further subdivides into form renal calyx. Okay. Apart from that, if you see about the kidney, the whole kidney can be subdivided into two regions. Outside there is a region. This region I am just marking it with blue, so kindly follow. This region is called cortex, and there is a region called medulla which is located here. This whole region I am marking it green is called okay. So outside layer is called cortex and the inner side portion is called medulla. It is common for many types of organ. Outer region is cortex, inner side medulla. Outer region. Now the thing is that apart from cortex and medulla, there is a tough covering present outside kidney, semi-tough covering. Even outside the cortex region, that is called the renal corpus. I will mark it so that you can see outside the cortex. So can you see this glycery or glossy area where which is covering the kidney? When you look into kidney, it has a very glossy finish, and that is due to the covering of kidney which is called capsule. So if you take a cross section of kidney and look into it from outside to inside, outermost layer will be capsule. Beneath capsule there will be cortex. Then there will be medulla. Now in medulla region there will be portions which are triangular in shape. Can you see this triangular shape structures? These are called renal pyramid or medullary pyramid. So medullary pyramids are opening where? They are opening into renal calyx. And finally renal calyx is opening where? Into the pelvis. And pelvis is finally opening where? Into the urine. So from outside to inside, once again we will revise. Outermost is capsule. It's not participating at all in urine production. It's there just for the purpose of protection. Inside that there will be cortex. Inside cortex, medulla. Medulla is having pyramid shaped structures which are called renal pyramid or renal pyramids are opening into calyxes, calyx opening into pelvis, and pelvis is finally ending up into ureter. Yes. That is outside the, it is encasing the whole excretory system. No. How anus is connected to excretory system? लंबर वर्टिब्रा तक तुम्हारी किडनी होती है, उसके बाद भी नीचे यूरेटर, यूरिनरी ब्लडर्स आते हैं ना, पेरिटोनियम इज कवरिंग ऑल ऑफ them. See, I told you in viscera, in the part of our body between the the whole part, this portion from here to here, so many systems are there. There is reproductive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, excretory system, digestive system. So if you don't have specific covering from for all of them, they will get entangled with each other, don't you think? If I'm doing yoga posture left and right, my lungs and heart can connect with each other and get entangled. These membranes are not allowing. Understood? So, not up to that long, but it is, yes, up to the ureter are present inside it. Okay, part of ureter. So, as I said, it is mentioned same here. You can see that the outer part is cortex, and then there will be medullary pyramid. Achha. Now I want to show you a part which is called column of Bertini. This is the region which is expressed here. Can you see in between two pyramids? If this is the pyramid region, this region, there is a column-like structure, and I will mark the pyramids also so that you understand them clearly. See, this is one pyramid and this is another pyramid. In between two pyramids, can you see the green colored mark region? That is called columns of Bertini. So many columns are there. So what is this column of Bertini? This is the area of cortex which extend into the medulla. So can you see it is the continuation of the cortex? It is cortex region which is green in color is extended into the structure. The outermost cortex region. Can you see this greenly marked part is cortex? It is entering in between two medullary pyramids. So that extended part of cortex which is going in between two medullary pyramid is known as columns of Bertini. Understood? Clear? So now we will look ahead. So this is the structure of kidney at a glance. So there are terminologies. I request all of you to have a look into them and let me know if any terminology is new to you or not. I explained to you about all of them. So we will move ahead. We will now talk about the structural and functional subunit of kidney. Okay, it is called nephron. Okay, so if you look into the structure of nephron, each of them are having a structure which is called glomerulus. So this red colored coiled structure that you can see here in the image is called glomerulus. You can see the labeling. Apart from that, this yellow part where this whole long yellow part is called renal tubule. Okay, so the renal tubule is creating a cup-shaped structure into which the glomerulus is held. This cup-shaped structure is called Bowman's capsule. Okay, and the renal tubule can be further subdivided into three parts. One is proximal convoluted tubule, Henle loop, which is U-shaped, and the distal convoluted tubule. So the portion of renal tubule is from here to here. Okay. So you can see this collecting duct, which is true to its name. I marked collecting duct into blue color. Collecting duct is collecting the urine produced inside nephron. So as I said that structural and functional unit, that means urine will be produced inside nephron. And many nephrons combination is nothing but the it is the kidney. Kidney is made up of many nephrons. So each nephron, whatever urine produced, they are collected finally by collecting duct. You can compare this with the sewage system we have in a society. Consider we have 100 houses. Each house is having two bathrooms. So each bathroom can be compared with one. Understood? Finally, the sewage collected from these two bathrooms will be collected by a big pipe. Then many such pipes coming out of 100 houses will be connected into a bigger pipe. Then 4 societies are there. Bigger pipes than that is connected into a septic tank. So you can see the hierarchy of pipes. Smaller, they are fusing to form a bigger pipe. They are further fusing to form a further bigger pipe. So this is the way the whole hierarchy is taking place. So similarly, from each nephron, the urine is connected by collecting duct. Many collecting ducts fuse to form a bigger duct, and final big cavity is the pelvis, which is collecting the urine produced by all nephrons present in the kidney. Understood? Whatever all nephron urine is produced by all nephrons are finally getting deposited where? Into the pelvic. Yes. I will tell you. The head of nephron is present in the cortex region. Okay. And the renal pyramid is pyramid shaped because it is having the renal tubule wala. And many renal tubules are created to form a bunch. The flowers are forming a bouquet similar. It is having similar. Almost all, but there are different types of nephron. There may be juxtamedullary nephron, there may be cortical nephron. So depending on that, it like shows the length of nephron. Depending on length of nephron, the length of renal tubule, their position starts. The one which are really long, their initial part start from the cortex. But the one which are comparatively shorter one are present near they are starting in the medullary region. See, we need to increase the surface area, isn't it? Why don't we have a single nephron? One big nephron will do, no? But then the surface area will not be more. It cannot be more, no? It cannot be more. So that's why we are having so many nephrons. And then if you want to accommodate so many nephrons, when we pack a suitcase, we put things aage piche so that maximum space can be utilized. Similar way, nephrons are packed inside the kidney. All of them are nephron. Depending on their position, we classify. Function is same. You need to accommodate them, no? But if all of them are present having same size, how will you accommodate them? How will you manage the space? You know, if there is a 3-seater car, that at the back side 3 people can sit. If 4 people has to sit, how we sit? Same conduct. Okay, so this is the like extended part of the Malpighian corpuscle. This is not Malpighian tubule, it is called Malpighian corpuscle. So what is Malpighian corpuscle? The combination of Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus is called Malpighian corpuscle. Okay, so how glomerulus is formed? Ayushi asked me one question कि मैम यूरिन अंदर आता कैसे? अगर यूरिन कहीं अंदर आना ही है तो किडनी की क्या जरूरत है? It can be directly connected with the ureter. Kidney is known for production of urine. So you may have a question which is asked to me by Kushi, that from where nitrogenous waste enters, they are carried by the blood inside. So there are afferent arteriole which is entering into Bowman's capsule, and then after entering it divides profusely to form a network-like structure. Can you see this network-like structure? And finally, all these network-like structures again fuse to form efferent artery. So afferent and efferent. वेन अगर यूरिन को पास करेगा तो फिर तुम्हें यूरिनरी ब्लडर की क्या जरूरत है बेटा? नहीं, वो यूरिनर में पास करेगा नो. Will you allow me to teach and then ask question? I am teaching you the structure still. Why, like in between you are asking? Allow me to teach. So this is about glomerular. It is same artery. Same artery is first dividing into the cavity of Bowman's capsule, and then it is again fusing to form the efferent artery. Now the question is why it needs to divide and why it needs to again like come back. That is something very important. So that we will know later on when we will study about the mechanism of urine formation. After this Bowman's capsule and glomerulus, that means Malpighian corpuscle or renal corpuscle, we will talk about the renal tubules duct-like part, that is called proximal tubule. It is also known as proximal convoluted tubule, PCT. Why proximal? The word meaning it of proximal is near. So it is near the Bowman's capsule, that's why it is called proximal. Why convoluted? Convoluted means highly undulated, coiled. Okay. So as it is highly coiled, that's why it is called proximal convoluted tubule. After that, there will be a U-shaped structure which is known as loop of Henle. Discovered by Henle, so loop of Henle. It would have been discovered by any one of you. Many students of mine say that, ma'am, why we have to study such bad names of scientists? Because we are not discovering any. Otherwise, हम ये भी बोल सकते थे ना, loop of रमेश. रमेश ने discover किया तो loop of रमेश. Anyways, so this Henle loop is having two limbs. The one which is going towards downside is called descending limb, and the one which is going up upside, which is called ascending. Now, ascending limb is ending up as distal convoluted tubule. It is distal because it's far away from the Bowman's capsule. And finally, all nephron will connect into collecting duct. Okay. So that is the basic structure of nephron. ऐसा कोई रीजन तो डिस्टल भी कॉन्वोल्यूटेड ही है. Okay. So collecting duct is finally opening up into renal pelvis that I told you. They are running through the medullary pelvic region and in the calyxes and finally opening up into the renal pelvis. There is Malpighian body, PCT and DCT. These are present in the cortex region and the Henle loop is present in the medullary region. That's why in medullary region this coil structure is looking as if it is having a striation like this, lining and form a pyramid-like structure. Okay. Now, the efferent arteriole that is coming out of the Bowman's capsules uh, from out of the glomerulus present inside Bowman's capsule is having fine network of capillaries which are known as peritubular capillaries. How many of you watered plant by using pipes? Have you checked one very funny thing? If you hold the mouth of the pipe tightly, suddenly the speed of water is increased. So the afferent and efferent tubule, I was talking about the pipe. If you hold the mouth of pipe tightly, you can see the speed of the water increase. So if you closely look into the afferent and efferent arteriole, the afferent arteriole is thicker and the efferent arteriole is thinner. So what will happen? Pressure is increased and afferent is the one which is entering and efferent is the one which is coming out. So if afferent diameter is more than efferent, so what will happen? The pressure will increase. So the liquid that is passing through the glomerulus is in under high pressure, and this high pressure is helpful for the filtration, ultra filtration. So what happens in normal filtration? The rate of filtration is quite low. Why? Because air is putting the pressure which is allowing the filtrate to pass through the filter. Okay. But if you are applying external pressure from outside, the filtration will be done very easily. So here, this pressure created due to difference in diameter is helpful for the quick filtration of the liquid, and that's why it is called ultra filtration, because pressure is increased. Now, a very minute network run parallels to Henle's loop. The blood capillary that is coming out of efferent is again coil around the Henle loop, and it is forming a U-shaped structure. You can see it is leveled quite nicely as vasa recta. So when we will learn about the process of formation of fluid, you will be astonished to know we produce a lot of filtrate due to filtration, but approximately most of the water filtrated is reabsorbed by the capillaries, this vasa recta. Okay, 180 liters. Every day we are producing 180 liters of filtrate. But when we go for urination, okay, so if you think we almost urinate 2 to 2.5 liters urine per day. So said that 180 to 2.5, this much reduction in volume is done by reabsorption of water. Okay, so that is done by reabsorption of water from vasa recta. Okay, so these are types of nephrons and others. We are going to learn about them in our next class. Okay, so today what are the things we studied? We studied about why we need to have excretion. What is the main purpose of excretion? I mean, what are the different types of animals depending on the substance they are excreting, that is urino, urico, and aminotelic. What is the advantage? Why we have so many types? What is the advantage of being aminotelic, ureotelic, uricotelic? Apart from that, I wish to talk about the structure of excretory system from external part, from internal cross section of the kidney, and then we learned about the structural and functional unit of kidney and its structure, that is called nephron. So next day we will continue further. Okay. If you have any doubt, forum is open for discussion.